telling me just what your family did, where you grew up, and what your dad did and so on.
Well, my dad was a farmer. I grew up about 2.5 miles from here down at Easton, which is a little crossroads in the highway, and 25 houses or so. And I lived there from the time I was about 8 years old until I went away to play baseball. And that was in 1930 was the first year I went to play baseball. So I was a farm boy.
You play any ball on the farm or nearby?
Oh, sure. I played even in grade school. We used to there was no other sports. Football was hardly known then in our area, and basketball, as far as that goes, in grade school, all we had was just the baseball, and every chance at recess noon and everything. The weather was decent. We were out playing, and that's what we played. So we played all the variations of the games where there wasn't organized. Like by that I mean the rotation where you start in right field and work your way around till you get up to bat and you make it out and you just have to circle around and go through again. And we played that. And actually we had a couple of games with other grade schools at that time. We were in a one-room schoolhouse.
Where was the school?
At Easton, number 10 schoolhouse in Chippewa Township. And number 3 was about 2 miles up the road, up the hill a ways, and we had games with them, and we played number 4, which is about 2 miles over another direction. That's about the limit of our. It's walking distance. We had it.
How big was the family?
My family's 2 brothers, so there's just the 5 of us.
Are they older than?
They're older than I am. Yes.
Are they ball players?
No.
Interested in it?
One of them wasn't interested in it at all, and the other one was very little. They enjoy watching it, but as playing. They played around in the neighborhood, too, in those games, but as far as going out and really trying to make even an amateur team and at the town level, they weren't interested in that.
This one-room school, what grade did you go through there?
It was a 1 to 8, 1 through 8, but I moved in there. I was 8 years old, but I was already in the 4th grade at that time. So I had, over at another school where I lived, I was born in the rural route Marshallville, Ohio, which is about 2 miles or 3 miles from where I was raised finally. And at that school, I was the youngest in the family, and one spring, when I was 5 years old, the teacher didn't mind that I went to school with my brothers the last 5 weeks of school. Well, I absorbed enough that the next year I started in the 1st grade, and by the time that year was over, I was doing some 3rd grade work. But I only skipped the 2nd grade. I went on then, and the next year was in the 3rd grade, and of course by the time I was 8, I was in the 4th grade, and we moved over to the other place.
How about high school grades? Is it elementary school?
Well, Doylestown is where I was.
Yeah.
I went through Doylestown here 4 grades, 4 years.
You're still living though on the farm, or did you move here?
No, I lived on the farm when I went to high school. Yes.
How did you commute?
Shanks mares. Yeah, walking.
You kept in shape that way.
Yeah. See, there's no such thing as a school bus then. You just walked. You got up, and if I played in the various sports, and after school I would practice, and it might be after dark, so I was walking down the road going home.
Looking at school books?
No, I didn't do much of that. I always found time to during the study periods to do what homework I might have needed to do in order to pass. Now, not to get great grades, I don't mean that, but enough to pass, so I didn't have to take anything home.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
They had all the sports at Doylestown High School? Or the major
The sports, we had the 3 major sports, yes. We had football, basketball, and baseball.
And what year were you there? What was your class year?
1925, graduated in 1928. I was just 16 years old.
You play all the teams?
I don't want to sound. Went out for all the teams. In the first 2 years, I was lucky to play. Well, I played on the baseball team, but I was real small. If you can believe that.
What was your size?
I don't know. Really, I must have been about 5 feet 2 or so up until the summer of my sophomore junior year. And I can remember yet, I went back, one of my favorite teachers, who was also the principal, spoke to her in the fall when I went back, and she didn't know me. And I had been in a lot of her classes because I'd grown about 8 or 9 inches that summer. So I was told. I didn't remember it. It was kind of a thing that you don't remember yourself because you don't realize, rather. But then I got to where I was about 6 feet tall, and of course I grew some after I got out of school. And, put on some more weight, of course.
Well, then you probably didn't make the team the first year.
I didn't make the football team. The second year I got to play a little bit. I didn't get a letter, but I got numeral. I guess everybody that went out got numerals. In basketball, I was on the squad. I didn't make the first squad, the second, just a reserve group, the first and second years, and then the third and fourth years I played in all sports, played regularly.
You had very good coaching in baseball, so.
Looking back, I would have to say it wasn't too great because at that time it seemed like he was older and he was adult and knew more than I did, and
probably as good as most schools
ran the game. No, right, as good as anybody around had, sure. And in fact, I should say this, as good as a lot of the high school coaches are at the present day, because fundamentally and on techniques and everything, a lot of them are just assistant basketball coaches, assistant football coaches that take this to get a little more money, and just put the team, say, team, go to work. I saw a game scouting around. I saw a high school team where the coach laid on the bench between the innings, just laid down. His team was out playing, if you can imagine that. He didn't last long. Next year, he wasn't a coach anymore there.
Did you learn much from the coach or from the high school experience?
I think I learned mostly just from playing all the time I could. Every chance I had where I would play. And of course, before I ever joined any organized group, just my brother and I would come in from the fields for noon, and when dinner wasn't quite ready, that's a noonday meal, of course, on the farm. Supper's the evening meal. Why, we would play catch until dinner was ready. And I would go and throw, and I learned to throw curve, of course, the wrong way. I could throw a ball real good, but I had my thumb over here like that, and it would go up there. And like, I guess most amateurs today, they like to throw a curve that's flat, what we call a flat curve, like sidearm, because they can see it break. What they don't stop to realize is so can the hitter see it break better. So it's better to throw it over. You don't notice it, and he doesn't notice it so much in time. He doesn't get as good a view of it. So I could throw that sidearm curve.
You hear stories from fellows that grew up on farms, and they claim pretty good pitchers that they practice throwing rocks through tires and tin cans.
I never practiced anything like that. I used to, of course, follow the team of horses a lot on the farm, harrowing and cultivating and doing the spring tooth and the mowing and all that. Well, especially the harrowing and spring toothing. The horses get a little lazy. One of them get a little lazy. Well, you pick up a clod and throw them. And of course, you do that quite a bit. Hit the horse to get him up there with the others. And then, of course, in driving the cattle out to pasture in morning and evening, why one of them you stray a little, well, you throw it then, you straighten them out. We used to do that quite a bit.
Bob Feller used to practice throwing
tires
through a
tire and through his dad at the barn, out back of the barn. I guess that's all right. I just never did that.
Well, he didn't really need to, I guess, and he had some others to play with.
Well, that's true.
Teams to play in.
The technique wasn't developed. We just threw that way. Of course, my greatest eye opener in as long as I played was when first year I went to spring training with the professional club. Went out, and of course, as we worked out at home in amateur ball, everybody we'd hit and fool around and catch a few grounders and a few fly balls, just fool around, stand around and watch the other hitters and run the balls down as they hit, and then when it was our turn to hit, we come in. Well, first spring training in pro ball, we started running us around the park. We just put the gloves and the balls down. Now we're going to run a while and get our legs in shape. And I say to this day that there aren't very many college or high school players that are in good condition to play baseball at their best of their ability. For that reason, they're just not in shape. And it isn't the fault of the coaches so much. is that they just don't have time to do all that work in school. They got to studies come first.
Fast automobiles that drive to school and back.
That's another thing that's bad for the legs. Everybody's riding every place. Go down the corner, jump in the car and go down.
Let me just check, see if we're coming all right. Okay, now you graduated in 1928. Did you like school?
Well,
Aside from sports.
I liked certain subjects, of course. I liked anything to do with the sciences. I liked biology, and I liked popular science, and
Has this been connection with your life on the farm and your interest in animals? And
yeah, well, yes, that part, and the fact that it taught you how certain things worked. Now, by that I mean just the vacuum pump or the pitcher pump, how it worked, and just we had to draw drawings and everything. But it was interesting to learn how those things worked, and I think a lot of that has carried over because right now I don't fool around with color television so much because that's a little more complicated. But with the black and white sets, we had very seldom did I have a service call. I just take the tubes and check them and see what tap a few in here and there.
You live nearby.
Yeah.
Well, after graduation, then what happened that summer of '28 or the next?
Well, the
year?
summer of '28, I played in a local team. See, I was just 16, and then I played with the adult team over in Haintown when I was 15. In 1927, called the Akron Worcester Coach Lines team. We played around Akron and as far as Millersburg League. Next year, the same team, same group, different uniform, called the Jackrabbit Lines. The same owner, everything else, but just a different team. Then they kind of...
Did they play very expensive schedules?
We played every Saturday and Sunday.
About 40 games maybe?
Oh, I don't believe it amounted to that much, really. Once in a while, but maybe in the evening during the week, but very, very seldom. Mostly holidays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
And you're pitching?
I was pitching. I pitched most all the games, yes. And I played with that team, and then in 28, and in 29, see, I hadn't signed up until I was 18.
What did you do that next?
Next year, I worked over to high boxboard, and that taught me that I didn't want to work in the factory all my life. But that was kind of a tough work, because my hands were all scarred up from that. The paper, yellow match, is the paper that matches are made out of, and they use that silica to paste several layers of it together, and those edges are so sharp when they cut them in big rolls. We cut them in rolls that weighed 200 pounds, I suppose, about 15 inches wide and about 4 feet, maybe 4 to 5 feet in diameter. And my job as a finisher was to wrap those in other paper for shipment. Well, and then pick up the what they call broke, the scrap, and stuff it in another place, and that scrap was too terribly sharp on the edges. My hands were cut all the time, all chapped up. But
how long did you work there?
I worked here almost a year to the day. A week before I left, I turned in my notice the day I got a raise, my first raise, because I had signed in the meantime, and they knew I was going to go.
Tell me about your first signing. Who scouted you?
Cleveland scout named Bill Bradley.
Oh, the old player.
Yeah, right. Signed me. I don't know who all contacted him to have him come down and see me play.
Had the reports of your performances been in the papers? Maybe it's in
probably little write-ups, but there was a couple fellows. The manager of the first team I played on, named Bill Lepley, he thought I ought to have a chance someplace. And then another guy named, what was his name? I had it on the tip of my tongue a minute ago. He lived in Akron. I never saw him very often, but he claimed that he was the one that got Bill Bradley to come down and see me pitch. But I didn't, of course, know he was in the stands the day. It was a serious accident happened the day that he first saw me, in the very first inning. We were in Millersburg playing against the Millersburg team. There's a left-hand hitter up there, and of course, at that time I had a little harder time throwing to left-handers, and I did the right-handers for some reason. I could throw and then keep away. But anyway, I got the count to 3 balls and 1 strike, and I was rearing back and throwing, and for some reason or other, this hitter didn't see the ball at all. He never made a move. I hit him right in the temple, and he went down like an ox. So, and They made him lay there a little while, then they let him, after a few minutes, he came to, and they let him come up, get up and go over the bench, and he got over as far as the bench, and he fell over again, out. And, of course, that shook me up pretty bad. And they took him away to the hospital. He was in the hospital quite a while. And I think, indirectly, it may have been the cause of his death maybe 20-some years later, because he did die prematurely of something that may have affected him, because he was hit hard. I could feel pretty hard. But anyway, that shook me up. I lasted a couple more innings, but I was wild, and then they took me out. But I guess I threw hard enough that he came back to see me later. And then I got a chance to go out and play. And that fall, he came down and signed me for the following year.
Very substantial amount.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I got a chance to play. That's it. No bonus. That was there hadn't been any bonuses given out at that time, to my knowledge. I got $175 a month, which was pretty high.
Bradley signed you. This is now the end of the 29.
End of 29 season.
For a Cleveland affiliate team.
No, and I didn't know that was wrong, but it was illegal baseball-wise for him to sign me to a Johnstown, Pennsylvania contract. He had a friend that was managing there, and he signed me for him. And he actually signed me, but he signed me as a representative of Cleveland to a Johnstown contract. He said, well, don't worry about that, you know.
What was the point of that? I mean, couldn't Cleveland
They
sign you directly?
Yeah, they could have. I guess they didn't have any room, or whether, I don't know.
You were old enough to sign.
Well, I had my parents' signatures.
You did.
Yeah, sure.
You were still under 18 then? Or?
Yeah, well, we had to be 21 at that time, yeah. So, I was 17 when I signed.
What did your parents think of it?
Well, they were all for it. If I wanted to do it, they were all...
Pleased?
Well, they never seemed otherwise. Of course, later on they were pleased, naturally, after things started going fairly well for me, but they never stood in the way or anything like that. And never advised me against it. If that's what you want to do and you get a chance to do it, my other brother, the middle one just older than I am, 4 years, well, he worked on a farm there, and that was almost enough help for the farm, 150 acres what we had, so he worked there, and he really didn't need me on the farm because even the year before I worked in the factory.
Did you do anything that winter?
No, the depth of the Depression jobs were pretty hard to come by, and all I did was there was a friend that was interested in baseball that had a service station. I'd work for him a couple hours a week, something like that, once in a while.
That was the fall of the crash, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. I went back, and out of my $175 a month for the 4 months, I came back with $400 and some I'd saved, and I lost it in the bank.
Well, you played the 29 season, then you got paid. Oh, this is
30.
This is 30. Okay.
Well, 30 was on our bank down here. The old bank down here went under.
All right. Now, did you go to spring training in 30?
I went to spring training at 30. Johnstown. They didn't go away to train. They went right in their park, yeah. We trained about 10 days before the season started. I reported April 4th, if my memory serves me right.
It's quite a memory.
April 4th, and I think about April 12th. Let's see, 410. No, it was about the 15th. About 10 days, 10, 11 days later, the season opened.
And who was the manager there?
Wilbur Good was his name, a left-handed hitting and throwing outfielder that played with the, I think it was the Braves.
I heard the name.
Yeah. And he and Bill Bradley were pretty good friends, and so...
He was Johnstown independently owned?
Yes.
And what kind of a ballpark do they have there?
Same one they have now, Point Stadium. It's about 250 or 60 feet to left field, if it's that far. It's the width of a little over the width of a football field to left field with a high screen. And of course, right field was the length of a football field, 400 and some feet.
It's a football field.
Yeah. They have a pretty large amateur tournament there every year now.
They don't have a professional team, do they?
They don't now anymore.
They have had one
for
quite a while.
They had quite a while after I was there, yes, sir. Up until just 10 years ago.
You see my notes here?
Yeah. Now, I have to...
to upset you.
No, let's see. Because I think that this is the one I unplugged.
Did you, who were some of the teams in that league that year? Zanesville?
No. Clarksburg and Fairmont in West Virginia, Wheeling, Charleroi, Pennsylvania, Johnstown.
Well, that gives me an idea. How did you travel?
We had 3 big old Hudson Super 6 7-passenger sedans.
Where did you get those?
I don't know where they got them. They owned the club. They were owned by the club, and one of the players would drive each one. That's the way it's at.
There were a lot of ways to travel.
Yeah, well, actually, then sometimes there were not enough room in those, so a couple of guys had cars that they gave them a few cents a mile to drive their own cars and take somebody with them.
Those mountains.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you probably had overnight trips then?
Oh yes, we stayed.
You had to have some of those places.
Yeah, the roads being what they were, you couldn't come back at night. It would take too long. We went to Clarksburg. We stayed in hotels every place. Huntington was in one year, part of the year.
That'd be quite a trip. How was your travel allowance?
Well, of course, they paid for the traveling, and we got $2 a day meal money when we were on the road. Yeah.
Any night baseball in the league? Yeah.
That's the year it started, 1930. But we only played a couple nights a week. We Johnstown.
Do they have lights there?
No, you got me. I don't know where they had them the first year. I know we played some in the second year.
Probably
yeah, I think we played all day in the first year there. But I believe one other team, maybe Wheeling had lights in 1930. Because the minor leagues had lights before Cincinnati, and the bigger leagues had it. The smaller minors had them.
There weren't much lights, though.
Not too good, no.
Would it help pitchers? Fastball pitchers?
It helped pitchers until the ball was hit, and then they kind of reversed the process because the fielders couldn't see the ball. See that?
If the batter could hit it, right?
If the batter hit it, then they even back again. I think that's the way I always thought about it. And contrary to what a lot of people thought, the fastball would be a great pitch at night, a breaking pitch because they couldn't see the rotation. And you throw it in there, a breaking pitch was just as effective or more so than a fastball at night, especially in the higher leagues. Because it seems though the better hitters follow the rotation. The earlier they can pick it up, the better chance they have of hitting the ball or taking it or whatever. So, and if they couldn't see it until it was closer to the bend, they had less time to adjust and everything. That's in my theory at least. And I think I've had some pretty good hitters tell me that the breaking pitch was more effective.
Were there any players in the Middle Atlantic League that first year and the second year you were there that later achieved great fame on their face?
Well, the first year that I was there were, I can remember one of the old umpires saying there's just 2 guys in the league that he thought had a chance of going to the big league. I was one of them, and Harry Gumbert was the other one, and we both did. Now, however, we had an older fellow on our team that made it for a little while named Harvey Thompson, a pitcher. No, he didn't hang around long. He wasn't around probably in the big leagues over part of a year or so. That's about all.
Well, was this the Class C league?
That was C league at that time.
You might have expected a few more, wouldn't you? With the C classification, it might work their way up.
Well, it was a lot more competitive at that time. And of course, that was considered to be a pretty good C league. And then, of course, every league thinks they're better than another league, the same classification. Or they used to say their C league, the players would say that's better than the New York Penn League, which was a B league at that time. So I don't know. I never saw any New York Penn League play at that time.
Were the ballparks generally pretty nice parks, or were they kind of...
Oh, they varied just as they do now. There were some fairly decent ones and then some real bad ones. In Charleroi had a bad park, just bad old wooden fencing, wooden stands. It was poor lights, and there was a river just outside right field. A lot of balls in batting practice. You had to be careful. Balls would be gone before batting practice was over. You couldn't retrieve them or anything. They were gone. Short. That's the year. Scottsdale was another team in the league. That's the reason I say that. That's the year I played against a guy named Mickey King who played at Scottsdale in the Cardinal chain. It was Joe Medwick later. He was still in school, and he was playing there under a different name as a pro during the summer and still until he finished his school, high school, I guess it was.
So he had his eligibility.
Yeah. And he came back, and afterwards they talked about Medwick and played at Scottsdale, and I said, I don't remember any Medwick. And you remember Mickey King? Yeah, I remember him.
Was he pretty tough?
Yeah, he was a wild swinger, just like he was all the rest of his career. He hit a ball out of the park, up here, down here, just as well or more so than if it was right in the middle of the plate. He was a bad ball hitter. Yeah, he had a heck of a career, good career.
Any very unusual things happen in those years at Johnstown? Was crazy plays or exciting plays? Any stand out in your mind?
Nothing that I remember too much as being exceptionally funny. The one exceptionally bad experience that I had was in a playoff in 1931. I know to this day, of course, the fellow he was old then, so he's found not to be living. He was umpiring the game. And we're the visiting club in Charleston, West Virginia. And it's the final game of the playoffs.
Was it in Charleston?
In Charleston. We were the visiting team. And it got into the 11th inning. It was 2-2. And I never had so many balls called in my life on balls that were over the plate. It got down to where the bases were loaded and 2 out. And this guy at bat, and I threw the first 3 pitches right down the middle because I knew I had an idea, and it was ball 3. He walked the guy, and the manager was so mad. We all complained, of course. He beat us. He walked the guy in to end the game. He wanted to go home. That was a playoff final. It was a playoff game. His name was Clark.
What do you think he was mad at you?
He didn't want to umpire any longer. He was tired. Or he wanted to go home. That's one way he could end it, by making it the last half of the inning. He'd walk that run in, and the game's over.
That conspicuously, though?
It was brutal. It was brutal, I'll tell you.
Especially as in a home.
Yeah, hometown. There was no other fans from our place. Nothing, just the players. Called it a squat, but it was the worst thing I ever saw. Excepting one thing, out in the Coast League, when I was all through, come back down there. I was with Seattle.
When was this again?
1950. And then a guy named Al Summers was umpiring back of the plate, and our catcher was Mickey Grasso, who had a habit of baiting umpires. But that's no reason for the umpire to take it out in calling the pitches. And he cost us a playoff. We were playing San Diego, in San Diego, for a one-game playoff to determine which one of us got into the Shaughnessy system playoffs, I guess it was. And it's in the bottom half of, we got an inning to go. We get one bat yet, and they get 2 bats, this one and the next one. And he started calling balls right down the middle, and this Grasso was jumping up and down. And that's the only time I ever honestly cussed a guy. I walked in and I told him what I thought of him, the umpire, and he didn't kick me out either, because he knew he was wrong. And when later on I talked to an umpire in Akron, went down to one, he runs an umpire school, if you can imagine that, in Florida now. And he talked about, this guy in Akron said, he talked about it, he said the only time he ever didn't throw somebody out was, and he mentioned me. And he said he was wrong. He admitted to them that he was wrong in doing that. That didn't help us as far as those are funny things. I've seen guys at various stages now in the big leagues. I saw a guy in a rundown, his cap come off, and as he runs back, he picked up the cap while he was in a chase. You can imagine that. reflex, I guess. He runs, going back the other way, stop, pick that, or doesn't stop, but stoop and pick up his cap. Just reach down and got it while he's running by. It's kind of hard to think of all the funny things on a spur of the moment type thing. Things that maybe seem very funny then, knowing the characters involved. To try to tell it and have it sound funny, it's not near as funny now. But I often wish and regretted that I didn't keep a diary, so to speak, of things that went on. It would have made quite some funny things.
Published it on the truck.
Yeah.
Okay, Johnstown in 31. Now, Fort Wayne in 32.
Right.
What happened here? How did this take place?
Well, at the end, excuse me, at the end of, not at the end, but along about the middle of the 31 season, I was still property of Johnstown on paper. I started pitching pretty good. I had a good earned run average. I didn't win but 11 ball games in that short season, but I had a lot of ball games that could have gone either way, that maybe a one-run loss or maybe an error or an out-run or something like that. But I had a pretty good... So they purchased me on paper. It was announced that I was purchased by Cleveland. Then to get to 32, then I went to spring training in 1932 with the Indians in New Orleans, the first big league spring training. Of course, they had no intention of keeping me at that time. That was just to be down there and work out and get a taste of it, I suppose. So, and I stayed on the club back up north here. I wasn't officially on the playing roster, I don't think. But I was with them and I sat on the bench and everything for the first couple weeks of the season. Then they optioned me out to Fort Wayne because they were waiting to have a place to put me, I guess. Anyway, Bill Womby was the manager over there, the triple play guy. Elmer Smith, the home run with the bases loaded guy, played outfield for a while. Did you?
I can't get to Womby. It's healthy. He doesn't want to talk.
Oh, was that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Sorry to hear that. I used to see him quite often when I was scouting up in Cleveland around Lakewood there. He was out there. And
I grew up in Lakewood.
Oh, did you?
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I actually interviewed Bill Womby in 1935 when I was in junior high school.
Oh, did you?
I was a school reporter, but I didn't know what I was doing. I would love to get up to him now, but he doesn't want to talk. But he was managing Fort Wayne.
He managed Fort Wayne, yeah.
This is a Central League. That
Central League was Class B at that time, yeah.
We had a real good year there.
Yes, I did. I had...
It says 14-6 here.
Yeah. Yeah, I played...
Were the playing conditions, living conditions, noticeably different from Johnstown?
Not so much. I didn't think so as far as I was. The towns were the same depression and just a different year is all. And
Travel facilities?
We traveled in cars like that the same way. We never was on a bus. It was always individual cars, a group of cars. Yeah. See, that South Bend was in there a little while, in Erie, Pennsylvania, Dayton, Fort Wayne. Youngstown and Akron. They were in the Central League at that time.
Would you say you played in Akron? Did you come home here at all, or get a chance?
Oh yeah, oh sure. They allowed me to come home when I was in Akron. Stay at home at night because we have about a 3-game series, 3 days, be a couple nights, and after the last game we'd be on our way going someplace to the next place.
Did you have a car?
Yeah, I had a car the first year. I took my car to spring training the first year. I bought it when I worked that 1 year. I bought it from my brother.
I thought there was a depression.
Well, I'll tell you, the only reason I could buy it was I make $45 every 2 weeks. And my brother owned the car. He had worked for my uncle for quite a bit. My uncle bought it and gave it to him. And see, they were only about $450. A Model A Roadster is what it was. And my brother, after he had a little bit, didn't really care that much whether he had it or not. I said, gee, I wanted to buy it, so I bought it from him. I gave him $10, $20, $25 every payday. So I paid it up that year, too.
You drove all the way down to New Orleans?
No, that was my first year, 1930. I didn't drive to New Orleans. The car stayed home. But I had it with me in 30, and then 31. I didn't take it to Johnstown. I thought, well, I better. I took it once, and then when I come back to Akron, Akron was in the Central League, in the Mid-Atlantic at one time too. There, I come back to Akron, and I'd leave it home, and then go with the rest of the club. They ticketed it one time while I was gone for a couple of weeks. It was parked out by Point Stadium, and they towed it away. I thought, well, I can't have that happen.
How was Bill Wamby as a manager?
I liked him. He treated me fine. Of course, I was headed. You know, when a guy has a good year for somebody, they treat you pretty good. So I have no complaints, and I don't recall too many other guys complaining about him. He seemed like it might have been a little too easygoing, possibly.
Were there any big stars in the team? Fort Wayne? Names that we heard from later?
Earl Bolliard, if that name is familiar. Bollyard.
Like I've heard the name, but
He was on that team. And the rest of the guys were, the younger guys didn't make it, and some of the older guys had been maybe in bigger professional leagues, but had been working their way down, so to speak, and were just had a job in the summertime to make a living. That's about what it amounted. There were some old fellas, some guys in their 30s playing b-ball, man, just to make a living in the summertime.
okay, now how about the transfer to New Orleans? And that was 33.
Yes, and I went to. They called me in at the office. They recalled me from Fort Wayne, and Billy Evans was the general manager. Called me in and said, "No, we're going to send you down to New Orleans outright." That's another independent club, see. But don't let that worry you, because you still belong to us. We've got so many players under option, and we can't send you there on option, so we're going to send you outright, which was another illegal thing.
I'm not quite sure what that means legally, but
well, it was against the baseball rules. I didn't know it, of course, at the time. I said, well, that's sure, I wanted to play. That's what the heck. I went down there to spring training.
was this a kind of a cover-up, you suppose? The judge?
Well, it gave them a chance to have control of me instead of 3 or 4 years, about 6 or 7. That's what it amounted to. So I went on down there, and the first year I didn't get started off very well. Of course, there are again. I'm in Class A ball, and the Class A was as good as the present Triple A at least. So I was considered a busher, a rookie, and the Class A men were doing they called A players and B players. You had so many B players on the squad, but and the rest could be A players. So they had or classmen, as they call them. So the pitching staff consisted of 4 or 5 classmen, and as long as they were going in the earlier spring when the weather wasn't too bad, too hot, they went along fairly good. I didn't get to pitch much. Relief once in a while was about it, and of course I was one that needed work. But then they started to falter when the weather got real hot. I got in more, and finally I started winning, and then once I got in regularly, they never got me back out again. From July 2nd in 1933 through the playoffs, I won 21 games. I won 17 in the season from that day on. I won 2 in the league playoff and 2 in the Dixie Series. Besides, during the stretch drive and during the playoffs, I was the relief man midway between my starts. And it so happened I relieved every time. And the second day, I pitch a full game, rest a day, relieve the next day, rest a day, and then pitch my game. And I did that through the Dixie Series, too, that year. And it happened almost the same way the following year.
Who was managing you?
Larry Gilbert.
Larry Gilbert.
One of the good, real fine manager. One of my favorite managers, by the way. He's deceased now, but he was the type ideal for a minor league manager. And I suppose he had chances to manage in the big leagues, but you couldn't have controlled the players as well, because some of them, they get high and mighty in the big leagues. Minor leaguers are trying to make it, and they listen. But he would call a player or make a certain move, then he'd ask somebody on the bench, why did I do that? Why do you think I did that? He'd explain his reason, and you learned it. You learned baseball that way through him. That's why I got to say he was one of my favorite managers. Just an example. It's a common example after you've been in the game. The catcher would be the eighth hitter, and the pitcher coming up. Maybe there'd be a man on second base, and or a man on first base, and first and third. And somebody said, well, why didn't he have that guy on first field? And he'd come around and say, well, which would you rather have, a man on first and third with a catcher hitting, or a man on first, second, and third with a lousy hitting pitcher out? Because that's what it amounted to. The minute the guy stole second, they'd walk the catcher and the pitcher would be hit. And he said, you got to keep that blocked up so you get a little better hitter hitting. And they do it. I see that in the big leagues now. Well, yeah, that's right. That's a different thing. Now, of course, in the minor leagues, you had 17 players, and you had to let your pitcher stay in there as long as he could pitch. Because you were limited in all the moves you could make. The game is different now.
Who was on that New Orleans team? Later heard about it.
In the 2 years, I distinguished in the year. There was Clay Bryant, Al Milnar, Greek George. They all had big league experience.
First base.
Harley Boss. And Eddie Morgan was there for a while.
Eddie Morgan on the way back down.
Yeah, right.
Why didn't he stick around more in the big time, would you say?
I don't know whether his
record.
He's a fine record. His desire wasn't that big because he's a wealthy man. You know, he had a big in Kenner, Louisiana, just outside New Orleans. Well, he's retired now, but there was a box factory or something, and he's well over a millionaire.
Eddie Morgan?
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was from a wealthy family.
Oh, he inherited much of his wealth then.
Yeah, right. He in this business, that was his inheritance, and he ran it well, evidently.
After his own
After his baseball career was over, yes.
He was one of my heroes.
Yeah.
For those Elgin watch home runs.
Yeah, this was after that, of course.
Yeah.
And then the outfielders were named Rose, Eddie Rose, Jack Ward, Pete Fleming, and there was a Kit Carson.
Walter.
Yeah, I guess it was Walter. I couldn't have called that name because there's always Kit. And Greek George and Chick Autry was a catcher. Autry was up in Cleveland one time for a little while.
He was on the way back down.
Yeah, right. He was an old, experienced guy. And the other pitchers, one was Fred Johnson, old butterfly. Fred Johnson later came up with the Browns for a little while when he was probably 40 years old. Andy Messenger. Of course, I mentioned Al Milnar and Clay Bryant. Bill Perrin was there, that's right.
He was one we got.
Bill Margeville.
Big Howard Craighead, was he ever down there?
No, he was a Coast League player.
But some of these fellows we kept reading in the spring, in the Plain Dealer every spring, they're going to be new Walter Johnsons.
Yeah.
And Perrin was one of those. Craighead
was one. I roomed with Craighead that year. Yeah.
They never quite made it.
No.
We remember Walter Johnson, but we don't remember Howard Craighead.
That's true.
Were they just overrated, or anyway?
It's hard to say. Well, as it turned out, you'd have to say they were overrated, but maybe in some cases, that's not always the case. In some cases, they could have had arm trouble. I don't know whether Craig had arm trouble or not. I don't know as Perrin did, but he may have also had arm trouble, and that it's a hard thing to say regarding that overrated bit. But then there's also the mental attitude of some that when they get to a certain level, they realize they're playing against players that are as good and maybe some a little better than they might be, and if they feel that way, that's about as far as they're going to go. You got to believe in yourself.
What were some of those ballparks like down in Southern League? like Sulphur Dell.
Sulphur Dell was a bad one. That was a real short right field, shorter than League Park in Cleveland yet.
Was that where they had the terraces?
Yes, they had a terrace there.
And how could an outfielder play there?
Well, you had to learn to play it. You had to play and make sure you had to get back because you couldn't climb and go up those steps and try to catch the ball. So they played back against the wall, and then you didn't dare come down too quick if it was looked like it was low because it wasn't like running in under ball level and getting to it. You dropped down real quick. They had to just. Quick. They had to just be careful and not drive down and have the thing go over their head. So it was a regular goat hill, a side thing. It's tough to pitch in.
Yeah. Okay, now about pitching in Sulphur Dell or these other places there.
Well, Sulphur Dell was hard to pitch in. I tried to pitch. Of course, I threw pretty hard at that time, and I tried to pitch outside to the left-handers, keep them from pulling the ball down. But then you had to pitch almost inside to the right-handers too. And if you had a good inside hitter, you had to pull the ball while you were in trouble there because left field wasn't too long either. So it just made it a hard park to pitch in. And of course, they had a couple pretty good hitters in Nashville when I was there. A guy named Phil Weintraub was a good pitcher, and Hank. These names I can see him just as plain. Huh?
Work?
No.
Charlie
Lieber. Hank Lieber. For the Giants. Yeah. They were a couple pretty good. They all each hit over 400 that year. So we had problems with them.
Have a real batting average?
Yeah.
Two of them over 400?
Each of them over 400, yes.
And I knew that some Nashville hitters had a lot of home runs, but I never quite tied it in with that.
Well, they got a lot of singles that bang, hit the fence, and they couldn't go more in first base. Because the ball would come back to the fielder, and they'd throw them, get it to second, get it back in there before they could advance to second even. But they had good. I'll tell you a pitcher that they had there, Byron Speece. He was from Cleveland. The underhand scraped his knuckles on the rubber when he threw.
He was pretty much
He was
over the hill.
on the way down. Yes, he was on the way down at that time. That's why that was a pretty tough league. Because those guys were, some of them were just out of the big leagues, coming down. Charlie Gresson was the manager in Nashville. Yeah.
What was Pelican Stadium like?
It was shaped kind of like, almost like an arrowhead. By that I mean the stands were far enough away from the foul line at down to first base, so then they'd cut in a little bit and then out again like an arrow, and they right at the foul line. So actually, the foul line was about 325 in right field and about 315 in left field. At Tulane Avenue was just off left field, and center field was 400 feet. It was a nice big park. It wasn't a bad park to pitch in if you could keep players from pulling the ball, which I was fast enough to do. There weren't too many hitters that could pull my fastball if I got it out, out away from them. But if I happened to get one inside once in a while, somebody threw it. But I could keep most guys from pulling.
How big a seating capacity did it have?
I suppose it would seat about 9,000 or 10,000.
Would that be about average for the Southern League? Or is there any average?
I guess Atlanta would have Peachtree Stadium would have seated about 14,000. That'd be a little bit bigger.
You get some pretty big crowds down there in those Depression days?
Oh, not too bad. Of course, we always had, at that time, the Negro bleachers were separate.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. They couldn't come in the stands. The Negro bleachers would be almost as many on a Sunday or holiday, and many in there as it would be all the rest of the stands, because they had a great time at the ball game.
They have their own concession stand, too? Or is it the kind of concession stand which had one?
I don't remember that. I believe they had a place where they could go, but I believe they could have bought. I believe they could use the concession stand, but they had to sit in the other area.
As a ball player playing in these years, did you ever wonder about the color bar?
I never gave it a whole lot of thought. I just figured that that's just the way things were. You didn't, and that, in fact, I didn't really know because they had the colored leagues, and it just seemed, from all we heard, that they were happy in their own league. They didn't want to play.
Did you ever barnstorm any black players?
No, never did. No, I never saw Satchel Paige till he was right up here at Cleveland. First time I ever saw him.
Okay. Well, you must have been called up during the '34 season. Is that right?
Yes, I was recalled at the end of the season, of course, but not to report. I was just recalled.
Oh, I see.
Because Dixie Series, by the time it was over, Cleveland, of course, was down in the race. There was no playoff, and they only had a week or so to play, so they just recalled me and don't report till next spring.
Was this a pretty big thrill for you? Or did you...
Well, it's always a thrill to be recalled by a major league club, and they think you might have a chance.
Did you have any doubt in your own mind you're going to make it with the big leagues?
Well, I always felt that I could. It was just a matter of I was
notoriously 5 years now down there.
Well, that's right, and then next year at Minneapolis, yeah. But that was one of those things that I was notoriously slow starter all my life. Now, if they'd have had, I feel this way, if they had had an agreement where players from here could have gone down to Cuba or Central America in those days and played ball, when I was a minor leaguer, I think I would have been able to start and get a good start in the spring by having worked all winter. See, I was one that it took almost mid-season to get in real good shape and with a lot of work. And if I didn't start out good, I wouldn't get much work. It just took that much longer all the time. That held me back all those years, I'm sure. Because after the 1935, when I was optioned again, slow start in the spring, optioned to Minneapolis. Cleveland had the Toledo club in the league at that time, but they didn't want me to play night baseball, and Minneapolis had day baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should qualify that. Probably they did play a night or so a week, and of course when we were on the road we had to play night baseball. But I could pitch in the daytime at home there. And that's what they wanted me to do, was work in the daytime as much as possible, and they agreed to do that. That's where Donnie Bush was the manager when I was there. We won the pennant that year.
You had a good year there.
See, we won pennants or half seasons all 5 years. I was in the minors. And then it was a funny thing to come up to big leagues and see the lax attitude of the players. It just didn't. Everybody in the minors just driving like heck. They're driving for a job, a chance in the majors, and also to win, to get a little extra money. In the major league, the players, I couldn't believe the attitude as compared to the minor league players.
Well, they've got a job on the line too, so don't they have an incentive to?
Yeah, I guess they were just. They had their salaries were enough that it just wasn't worth it for them to bear down. They couldn't didn't have sense enough to realize what they might have done. I guess so many of them. Not all of them were that way, but it's surprising how many were.
Did you? Well, Roger Peckinpah was no longer manager. You came up, was he?
He was the manager of my first year. I went to spring training, but not when I came up to play.
Did he get to know you very well?
Well, I got to know Roger pretty well, yes.
I've interviewed him a couple of times.
I haven't seen him for a couple of 3 years now.
I may stop over this evening to see him. I'm going to get through.
Oh, yeah.
And was Steve O'Neill or Walter
Steve
Johnson?
Was Walter. I played under Walter Johnson. I played under Steve O'Neill. And, of course, the great Oscar Vitt. When you asked me my worst manager, that was it.
Oh, would you elaborate a little bit?
Oh, he
on
was.
that?
Of course, he's gone now, but
Well, when were you under him?
1938.
Oh, yeah.
1938.
Last year.
Yeah. When he had signed up in about September of '38 for 2 more years, I went into the general manager's office and I said, "Get me out of here if you want to send me back to minors, any place. I don't want to play for him." Because he was just a real two-faced fellow.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, it got to be a joke all around the league. Everybody said, as soon as I find out a player that's played for him and has a good word for him, I'll stop talking about him. Never found anybody. You know, he had the great year at Newark as a manager.
37.
The players absolutely paid no attention to him. He would try to tell them to do something, they'd go on and win the ball game.
You mean that great Newark team was great in spite of it?
In spite of him, yeah. They didn't. He'd tell them to want them to do this or that. They'd go and do their own.
Yes,
Just go on and
got
win.
a job in the big league because of their performance.
Right. He was bad. Well, they had the crybaby incident later on. I said that. Well, I was with the Red Sox at that time, and the Red Sox would get on him. I said, "You don't know what it was like. You wouldn't say anything about anybody being a crybaby." Because I was there. I know what it was like.
Two-faced. Now, can you, in a general way, can you...
He'd say one thing to you and then turn around and tell somebody else just the opposite about you. That plus the fact that he was always showing somebody up. He coached third base, you know.
That sounds cool.
And somebody maybe having to bunt a ball foul, he turned and said, "What can I do?" You know, giving to the fans that, "What can I do?" They went, "Oh yeah." Oh, he
Just for the fans.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then on the bench, when like Feller was the first year was 36 and then 37, 38. Feller was still wild in 38 yet, you know, but famous and then winning quite a lot of ball games. And he'd have a wild streak and walk around in that and Vitt would pace up and down there. "What can I do? They're supposed to be my ace, and he's out there like a busher." That's the way he talked all the time. He just made it was just terrible. So I had no love for Oscar. I had none. He was just a...
Did you know baseball?
I guess if he could, the percentages, he was pretty well versed in the percentages, but of course, when it came right down to it, there was always a certain suspicion that he didn't run the team completely. Mrs. Vitt did a lot of it. I didn't mean to imply that the general manager or anything, I don't know how their things were, but Mrs. Vitt, if she didn't like a player, he didn't play too much. Yeah. It was kind of funny. And of course, she was among she'd be around the wives and make some remarks, and of course the wives would know all those things, and it made it just for a bad situation, I thought.
Was the players pretty unhappy? You went
Quite a
in
few.
to be traded.
I think quite a few of them were, yes. In fact, I know none of them liked him. He just wasn't liked at all.
How about Walter Johnson as a manager?
Walter Johnson was a great pitcher and a fine fellow, but I just didn't think he was much of a manager. Things came too easy to him as a player. He was too great, and he felt that everybody, like his pitchers, should be able to do what he did, and nobody could. It just was an impossibility, that's all. And it was a shame, and as far as knowing the rest of the game, I guess he knew it fairly well, but there again, it was a matter of handling people, and the big league job is a matter of handling people in the press and so forth, as much as it is percentage baseball. And of course, a bad manager can tear it apart, tear a good group of players apart by playing poor baseball. And conversely, a good manager can't take a bunch of donkeys and play good baseball either.
Well, could Walter Johnson been too easygoing?
He was rather easygoing, yes. Of course, I wasn't around there too long under him. That's when he was there. I was optioned out. So I was only there a month or so, but it was just enough.
When you came back, it was Steve O'Neill?
Steve O'Neill, yes.
How was Steve O'Neill?
Steve O'Neill was fine. I always, of course, he liked me because I would, when he said, you all right? Can you pitch? Yeah, sure. Always. And he always liked me for that reason. I never said no, if something was wrong that I didn't think I could pitch.
Did you ever have arm trouble?
Not really, no. The closest I came to it was under Steve O'Neill. This was a series when the Yankees came to town, when they had the good teams and were winning, playing in League Park on Friday and Saturday, and in the stadium on Sunday, if you recall, when they were doing that. On Friday, I believe it was George Bladeholder started and got in trouble. He got behind, and I come in and pitched, got out of the hole one inning, pitched an inning longer until my turn came to bat because we were behind. I was taken out for pinch hitter. This is on Friday. On Saturday, Johnny Allen started. He got behind. I come in with a man on third, nobody. I got out of that without the score. Pitched 2 more innings until my turn came up, and they used a pinch hitter, and I was out then. Sunday, we're down at the stadium, and Oral Hildebrand and Monty Pearson were hooked up in a pretty good pitcher's battle. It was 4-3 Yankees in the 8th inning. And Steve came over to me and he said, do you think you can go an inning or so? If I need you down here today? I said, yeah, try. And so he said, well, I'm going down and get loosened up. I'm going to put a pinch hitter in for Hildebrand in the 8th inning here. And so you can pitch it, if you can pitch that 9th inning, well, that'll be fine. So sure enough, they did, and we didn't score, and I pitched the 9th inning and held him. We come back, scored a run. So it's 4-4. I pitched the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and the 15th inning. And my arm was kind of tired then, and so I had 3 days in a row, like that. And at the end of 15, he said, how does it feel? I said, well, your arm's hurting a little bit now. He said, well, I think that's enough. You've had enough. And we let George Uli was there as a kind of a pitching coach and a player coach. I said, let George, it's getting dark anyway. Pat Malone was pitching for the Yankees relieving by that time. So he took me out, and then it ended 4-4. Nobody scored after that. So that was in Gary Goodicki and Lazari and Crosetti and Rolfe.
You never got to pitch to Ruth, did you?
Missed him by half a year or so.
How about Lou Gehrig?
Lots of times. Gosh, yes.
How did you pitch him?
Well, it was a problem. He was the problem. You had to try to keep it away from him because he could pull that ball in Yankee Stadium. Keep it way and down, and he couldn't be pitched any one way. Up and away. I tried to sometimes work him up and away and just make the ball go away from him a little bit. Where if he hit, it would be in the right center or left center, where it was a long part of the field, where you had to hit it excellent, real great, for it to go out or be out of reach of the outfielder. That's one of the reasons I kind of liked to pitch in Yankee Stadium. They had a good long field, accepting right down the lines.
How about Joe DiMaggio? Did you pitch much to Joe?
Yes, quite a number of years.
Pretty tough hitter for you?
He was a good hitter, I pitched him breaking stuff most of the time, crowd him, and then throw the slider and curveball, mostly slider. That's the thing that I had the best luck with. And I don't mean that I got him out all the time or anything like that, but if I got him out at all, that's what it was with.
It's been really tough facing those Yankees.
Well, there was a lot of good hitters in the league at that time. They were tough. They had the whole lineup of tough hitters. Good.
What about people like Krosky and Averill and Farrell? They're good players that I, as a kid, used to idolize. How were they as ball players and persons?
Oh, of course, Averill was fine. I was never around him very much. He was an established star by the time I was trying to break in. They had their group that they went with, so I was never around him much, even though...
There was cliques in there?
Kind of, I don't mean they're cliquish as far as the game, but they were friends that the group would go with a certain group, that's all. They'd visit back and forth, and we weren't in that group, which was all right with me. They had making good salaries at then. I was trying to make it established.
How about Wes Farrell? Is he gone yet?
Wes was in spring training the first year, and then he was traded to Boston. I was never really on the team with him. But I know him quite well from having lived in Sarasota when he did. So I know Wes was a very nice fella until he was in something competitive. And then he let competitive spirit get to him, and he was just everything. He was a different person entirely. And of course, his brother Rick was real mild-mannered and nice. But Trotsky was a good fellow. I mean, he had those migraine headaches.
How bad were they?
Oh, he suffered. He used to heading for the ballpark. We lived in the same area, Shaker Heights, and up in that area, and we'd ride to the park together. And he just hardly stand it, riding to the park some days. His headaches were so bad. So,
he always had those.
Well, he had them for long. I guess it was long after he was through as a player. See, I've known him when I go out to the 3I League to scout in years past. While we used to visit with him, we were real good friends. I've seen last time I saw him about 3-4 years ago. But our wives still correspond. But he finally, after all those years, found out that it was milk products that caused his But our wives still correspond. But he finally, after all those years, found out that it was milk products that caused his he quit having anything to do with ice cream or milk or cheese or cottage cheese, and the headaches went away.
Is that right? Wonder how he found that out.
Somebody else talked about it and mentioned it, and he thought, well, he'd try it just on his own. It wasn't a doctor, I don't believe, even. It just somebody else said that helped them, and he started to do it.
I wonder how much longer his career might have been if he found that out earlier.
It's hard to tell. It might have been quite a bit. Well, I think he quit because of it eventually. And once in a while, he got good for quite a while, and of course, pressure, tension, had something to do with it because he was in some pretty involved real estate deals. That's what he's in, farm company and so forth now, has been for years. And I think his wife said that he had a tendency, when this one thing wasn't going very well, he started to bother him a little bit again. But then that straightened out, and he was all right again. But he did get back to where he could take a little bit of dairy products, a little ice cream or something once in a while.
A lot to give up, but if you get rid of those headaches, it would be worth it.
That's right.
You remember Decoration Day 1934? Were you with the team then?
No, I believe I was just optioned out.
Double header they played there. Crosby had 3 home runs in one game. Sammy Hale with 2 of them in the bleachers.
I was optioned out. See, I was optioned out about mid-May. Mid-May to New Orleans.
Swept the doubleheader. Crosby does 3 over the right to his screen.
Well, I was with Cleveland and I don't know the date, in St. Louis when he hit 4.
Crosby hit 4.
And so. Now, they might not have been in the same game.
Maybe a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Consecutive time with that.
I think that was it. Anyway, of course, in St. Louis, I saw an unusual play. Sacrifice was in order. Ronnie Hemsley was catching. Sacrifice was in order, man on first.
Who was doing this now? Was this Cleveland?
Hemsley was with St. Louis at that time. And, of course, that was in his days before he joined the A. And he'd been out the night before in Hornsby and made him catch this doubleheader. In St. Louis, sure. Doubleheader in St. Louis in the hot midsummer. And the sacrifice is in order, and to show you, I never saw it again. Probably it's never happened any other time. A guy made a pretty good bunt down the first base line. Hemsley was out there so fast, tagged that base runner, and threw the second and got a double play. As tired as he appeared to be and everything, he was quite a character.
As long as he played in just teaching, behave.
Well, he's going to make, yeah, if you got enough energy to stay out all night, you can catch both games.
You know Ormsby very well?
No, not very well.
Played under him.
No, he was managed the Browns there when I was with the opposition.
There are a couple things other I want to get here before this tape runs out, but if there's one I want to jump time-wise here to get to 1948 in the playoff game.
Oh,
you probably knew I would be getting.
Well, yes. Of course, I'd like to talk about 1944 series too. No, that 48 game.
When did you learn you'd be doing the pitching?
I had a hunch about it. I had a hint of it the night before.
In what way?
One of the players that was sent around by the manager to question several of us. I think I was the last one he talked to, and he said, "I think you'll be it," based on the response. Now, I didn't know this until a few years ago. I saw this fellow he sent around, and
you don't want to identify him?
Bertie Tebbets, he was, sent around to talk to these other pitchers, and Bertie told me, he said, "I think it'll be you." But just about 3 years ago or 4, up here at one of the Ridge and Roast banquets, he told me added a little more to it. He said he sent me around. This is Bertie talking. He sent me around to talk to these pitchers. Now, I won't mention the rest of them. It wouldn't serve any purpose. But and I did. And when he told me that he thought it would be me, he said I went back in to McCarthy's office, and he had a sheet of paper on. He said, what was said by the various ones, and who do you think? And he said, he mentioned me, and McCarthy turned the paper over, and there was my name on it. He'd already made up his mind, but he just wanted, I guess, verification of how he felt about some of the others.
Why did he pick you?
I have heard, this is strictly rumors, that each of the other ones had some reason why he didn't think he ought to.
Have you been going pretty well for the end of the season?
Strangely enough, no, it was, that was the year. I still think I hurt a couple of years of career. I was trying so hard. I was being transformed into a relief pitcher, and I pitched on July 5th that year. Was the day they celebrated the 4th of July, Monday, in 48. The Yankees were in Boston. And the first game of the doubleheader, we were one run ahead in the 9th inning, and we got into some trouble. I went in and pitched the last 2/3 of an inning and got out of the trouble without them scoring. They had been up third. And I got out of it. We won the ball game. We saved the ball game. In the second game, I was out in the bullpen, and in the 8th inning, he brought me in because they took the other guy out for a pinch hitter, and we're behind. No, we're even. We're tied. We tied it up there. I pitched the 8th to 19. I was faster than I had been the first game. I got by real good, and in the bottom half of the 9th inning, after I'd shut him out for 2 innings, and we got 2 men on, and I come up to bat, and that's sacrifices in order, of course. And that's one thing I could do fairly decent was bunt, because that's all they ever had me do practically. But anyway, I bunted, and I thought, well, there's 2 on. I laid down a pretty good bunt, and I ran as hard as I could, even though it was a sacrifice, hoping to beat it out to give us 3 chances to score that run. The game's over if they score. And in doing so, I stumbled over first base, fell and landed on my left shoulder and got a shoulder separation. Now, they didn't. I get up and brushed myself off and come on in. Oh, it hurt. But I couldn't have gone out and pitched again. But we scored. We scored and the game was over. So I saved one and won one that day. And then I couldn't pitch for 5 weeks or so. The guy did the wrong thing. He strapped my arm down to my side or something and did it wrong. And it made it so much longer before I could pitch. And I was just getting back into pitching some near the end of the season. And I think one of the reasons he chose me against the Indians that night was in the series against Cleveland. Prior to that, I beat Satchel Paige the first game he ever lost in the big leagues. Joe Dobson started for the Red Sox. No, Mel Parnell. The Indians scored 5 runs and had a man on third with nobody out in the first inning. And I came in to relieve. I got out of it with no more scoring that inning. And I pitched the rest of the ball game. I take it back. There was 1/3. I pitched 8 2/3. And the Cleveland starter, I believe it was Dobson at that time. And we got to him, scored a couple of runs, and we come back and forth. First thing you know, Page is in relieving for Cleveland. And it's, I don't remember the score, but anyway, we scored, and it got up to, I allowed 1 run somewhere along the line during that ball game, so it was 6-6. And finally we scored 1 off Satchel. And I held him the rest of the way and won the ball game 7-6. And I think because I did that, may have had something to do with the fact that I started against Cleveland in the playoff game. Of course, that game itself was a matter of break, luck, and inches. The weather that day was such that the wind was blowing from the right field line straight to the left field, which was from home plate to the left field fence. At a pretty good clip, at least a 30-mile-an-hour wind, a strong wind. It wasn't just a breeze, it was a strong wind. And the ball Boudreaux hit in the first inning off me. I got the first 2 guys out all right. And it was the 3-2 curveball. It was right on the outside, and he just flipped his bat like that. And honestly, Ted Williams, playing left field, left his place on the bank there. There was a little slope there. And started in. He's going to catch a pop fly back a short. And the wind got it. It was high. It was real high. The wind caught. He backed up. Then it looked like he was going to catch it right up against the wall. And then he turned like he was going to take it off the wall because it hit, and it hit right on top of the wall and bounced in for a home run. That's the Boudreaux home run he got off me. He got one later off somebody else. But then later on, Keltner hit a ball off me that was a home run in any park at any time because he outguessed me. I had 2 men on, nobody out. And, of course, I knew they're not going to bunt. And that park was a guy like him hitting. But he had been leaning out, way out over the plate. And I thought, well, by God, I'm going to straighten him up. Because he's out over there. If I try to pitch outside, that's going to be right in his alley, the way he's leaning there. So I reared back the first pitch it threw as hard as I could. He's out over the plate, see, right up in here on him. But while I was releasing the ball, he just baited me for that. That's the only thing I can figure. He baited me because he backed away out as I released the ball. Now, he couldn't have known that's where I was throwing it, but he figured, I guess. And he hit it. It was a bad ball. It was up in here out of the strike zone. But he really hit it. It was inside the plate and about shoulder high, a little above. He hit it through the light tower. Of course, that's the last pitch I made then. But in our half of the first inning, after Boudreaux hit that home run to put them ahead 1-0, we got a couple men on, a run in, and 2 out. And Feller's out of the ball game. If one more ball drops in there, and Bobby Doerr hit a line drive to left center that had all the earmarks of 3-base hit on it, and Dale Mitchell was the left fielder, a right-hand glove, left-hand thrower. And of course, at that time, they were allowed those big webs. And he had a great big net on the web of his glove, and he's run across there, and that ball stuck in that web, that far below his glove, and stayed. He caught it. And that ended the inning. Otherwise, Bearden's out of there. I mean, and Feller's coming in. Bearden's the one who pitched it.
That was quite a thrilling.
Well, it was a tough ball game, tough situation to be in. But those are things that you got to expect when you're out there in the profession. Why you get in situations like that.
Now let's talk about 1944.
Well, I just all St. Louis series. Of course, a lot of people say it's a wartime series, but they had Stan Musial and Whitey Kurowski and Marty Marion and the guy Ray Sanders played first base, and of course the second baseman Urban was just an ordinary guy, and of course Musial was in the outfield, and a guy named Augie Bergamo, and let's see, I forget who the other outfielder was for him. But they had a pretty good fellow. Walker Cooper was the catcher.
What was it like in St. Louis that year with both teams? Even though it was wartime, was there really some excitement in the
Yes, we drew quite well. That was one of the best years the Browns ever drew. And the last series, we were playing the Yankees, a 4-game series, and Detroit was playing Washington 4 games, and Washington was way down the line. The Yankees were fighting. They were still had a chance when they came into our town in St. Louis. So we were rained out on Thursday, I believe it was. So we had to play a doubleheader Friday. We played we won both games Friday. I pitched on Saturday and shut them out 2-0 on Saturday. And that's the night that Luke Sewell was the manager. He came in the shower afterward. He said, if we get in the series, you're going to start it. But he didn't tell anybody. He said, don't tell anybody else. So then Sunday we did win. And of course I knew I was going to start. And, everybody's trying to figure out who's going to start for the Browns. And they wouldn't say anything. Nobody said anything.
You're the mysterious starter, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's right. So it was funny. We were out there on the day before the series started, and there's a reporter walking around talking to all the pitchers and trying to get some idea. I seen coming toward me, and I guess by that time Zach Taylor, the coach, knew that I was starting. I said, Zach, hit me some fly balls now. Here comes that guy. He's going to start questioning me. I don't want to lie to him or anything. So he started hitting, and I started running, just like as I was doing my workout. He got about halfway, turned around, and went on back. That was it.
Well, how did Luke, did he ever tell you why he picked you for that opening game or anything? Did you have the best record in the league? Probably never.
No, I didn't have that. It was the year I played half of the season. I was in the warplane part of the year. But the last, these are his words, according to the last 6 weeks of the season, I was the most consistent pitcher he had. That's the way he felt. So,
how'd you like Luke?
He was all right.
Did you ever see him very much?
I don't see him much anymore now since he's retired. But he was okay. And of course, I won the first game of the series.
Mort Cooper pitched a 2-hitter, huh?
Yeah, right. Single and home run, right, one right after the other, and that put us ahead. And they didn't score until the 9th inning when we were just protecting the 2-run lead. They got Marty Marion doubled, and we didn't pay any attention to him. We just concentrated on getting the next 3 guys out, and he did score on the fly ball or something.
And then the 5th game, was it, or the
5th game I started? I pitched
Cooper against, didn't you?
Yeah. And we set up what at that time was a record for a 9-inning ball game for strikeouts. He had 12 and I had 10.
Is that right?
22 strikeouts, yeah. That wasn't broken until Koufax and the Yankees. The staff broke it. And I lost that one 2-0.
A couple of close games there.
Yeah, well, then that's funny. That was a wind type thing. Danny Litwile hit a home run that was started out along part of the field where it could have been caught, and the wind was going to right field that day, and you just see it curve, and it curved in and got in the stands beyond the high screen. And of course Sanders hit a pop home run that just barely got on the roof in right field that day with the wind blowing out. So there was 2 where the wind affected them and made them home runs. It was both that way. Of course, we didn't score anyway, so it didn't make any difference. But
what was your, looking over your whole career, do you have any big thrills that stand out? Would the World Series victory be the biggest one?
I got to go back to the Yankee series I told you about. I pitched 3 days straight and then pitched that 4-inning thing. That was at that time. That was quite a thing. And Steve, of course, came over to me and says, "Boy," he said, he didn't know what to say. And finally, the next time the Yankees were in town, I walked in the clubhouse early, and he'd just been talking to the Yankee manager McCarthy at that time. He started laughing. He said, "Come here." He says, "You know something? The Yankees just don't think they can hit you." He said, "I was just over there," and he said, "They just don't believe they can do it." I said, "Well, I hope they stay that way." But the thrill was in the Yankees in their prime and to stop them cold 3 times in a row in 3 straight days. Well, I think was the biggest, as good thrills I ever had. Oh, of course, any time you win, it's kind of a thrill too. And the World Series victory, of course, was fine.
Did they get rings in those days?
Yeah, we had ring. We had ring for the American League pennant. Of course, we lost the series 4-2. I'm not a ring wearer. I don't like to wear finger rings. I call them finger snatchers. I just don't wear them. I'm always around machinery or something sometimes and doing something.
Who was your manager in Boston? Was that Joe Cronin?
Joe Cronin the first time I was there, and then he was there the first year when I came back. And he brought me back from St. Louis that time. And that was probably one of the best half years I had. I won 17 games. I didn't won 11 games for him in half a year.
Which year was this for?
47.
Yeah. How did you have to go to St. Louis in the first deal back in the 40s?
Well, I never knew for sure for a long time, and then until the now Red Sox publicity man, Jack Mulaney, had said that the meetings were held in Atlanta, the baseball meetings were held in Atlanta, and there was several days had gone by, and it was the last day, and they were at the Coca-Cola plant for the big party for the last day. And Don Barnes, then owner of the Browns, was crying on Cronin's shoulder. He said, I haven't been able to make a deal and everything, and maybe he was feeling a little under the influence too. He says, let's make a deal. I've got to make a deal of some kind. He says, who do you want? And he said, Barnes mentioned Fritz Ostermuller and me. He said, what do you take for him? And I guess, according to this Jack Mulaney, Joe mentioned a figure that was a little beyond reason. Figuring he won't take it, he didn't want to sell. And Barnes said, I'll take it. So that's what happened. I went to St. Louis. Yeah. Cash. No other players involved, just cash. So we went to St. Louis together.
How was Cronin to play for him?
He was 2 different people. The first time I was over there, he was young as a player. He did manage a lot, but he was not a good pitcher's manager, and he admitted it to me later. Because when I went back later, of course, I did well for him, and he'd tell me the day I pitched, he says, this is where you're going to pitch, no relieving, so you pitch 9 innings today, I'll give you 4 full days rest, you pitch the 5th day, you pitch next Friday, or whatever that day was. So that's when you're going to pitch. Now govern your training accordingly. I pitched that day. If I happened to be behind and maybe pitch 6 innings or so and be taken out for a hit or something, he'd come right to me right after the game. He said, now, you want to pitch 6 today, I'll give you 3 days rest. You're going to pitch the 4th day. Because they were having trouble, not many pitching. So I did real well for him. And he said, I'm a little bit different with pitches than I was when you were here before.
Oh, is that right?
Well, yeah. He admitted it.
Very interesting.
Yeah. In fact, this goes not too long before he got me back. We're in St. Louis. The Red Sox are in there, and we're having a terrible day. Pitchers are being hit all over the lot. Red Sox must have scored 18 runs or so. And I, being a veteran and everything, was called down to pitch the 9th inning. And as I come off, I got him out 1, 2, 3. As I come off the field, of course, he had been coaching third. He walked by me. This shouldn't be on the record. What he actually said to me, he said, I've been a so-and-so. He said, I never did anything like that to you. And I said to him, I said, well, I haven't been pitching much. I had to get some work in sometime. So that's all I said, rather than complain and badmouth somebody. Yeah. So it wasn't long until I was back over there then. And that wasn't the reason. Because of that, I don't mean that. I had just relieved against him in Boston the series before and pitched 6 or 7 good innings of relief. Then we went over to Washington. And about 3 days later, Calvin Griffith, who the Twins now, of course, and he was at Washington on the same team, and he called me and he said, when can you be ready to go? to Boston. I said, what are you talking about? He said, this is Calvin Griffiths. He said, hasn't Cronin or anybody gotten in touch with you yet? I said, no. Why? He said, well, who are you trying to kid? Oh, he said, no, Joe called me. He says, we made a deal for you. You're going back to Boston. And he said, if he hasn't touched you, don't say anything to anybody, but you are, so make preparations to go back. If that's what if you want to. I said, do I ever want to? So I told one guy, my roommate, and I fooled around and I fiddled around all day and kept my clothes packed and nobody said anything. Finally, come evening, go to the ballpark. I went out to the ballpark, went in, and I didn't put my uniform on. I fooled around trying to wait, and finally the manager, Muddy Rule, came in after a while, and I'm still just half dressed, and he says, come here. And he started apologizing for getting, we're going with you if you're older and everything. I said, Muddy, I knew this early today. Where were you? He says, well, I was out visiting friends, and I didn't know it. From my standpoint, a good pitcher's manager, the second time I was there, but not a very good the first time because he was still playing short and calling the pitches. I'd want to throw something, and he'd flash something to the catcher, and the catcher would keep giving the other sign, and I'd keep shaking, and finally the catcher come out and said, come on, you got to throw this, and Joe wants it. I said, oh.